Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Tori Grace, and it is another episode of Woman Crush Wednesdays. It has been a lot going on. The last episode that I tried to record, I got bit by ants outside, and if you guys don't know, I am very much so allergic to ants. So we kind of had like a wrench thrown in the plans on that particular day, and then just all hell has broken loose on my end. And then, of course, we had one more thing to add to the pot. I ended up having to self-quarantine for the last couple of days because I was exposed to coronavirus. So this has been a super, for lack of better words, shitty ass month. Today's episode, though, I want to kind of focus on what, in my opinion, is the most important thing over the last couple of weeks for me. We'll do another episode later about preparing for homeschooling. What are you doing during homeschooling? And then I also want to do another one. I got a couple of ideas, y'all, but today we're going to talk about co-parenting with toxic co-parents. This has been a particular episode that I felt was very important to do for a while because, as you guys know, I do have 2 kids, and they both have different dads. And at different points in times in parenting, the situation has not been the best for either of my children, nor myself, nor the other parent involved. It's not a good situation, and I won't completely just be like, oh, well, it's his fault, because at some particular point in time, I picked them. So that's like step number 1 in dealing with your situation. Toxic co-parenting, in my opinion, and at the end of the day, is when 2 parents are parenting a child, and rather than doing what is absolutely best for the child, they have a tendency to do what's best for just themselves, just what they want to do, how they want to do it, only for them, and what makes sense for that particular parent. And a lot of the times you hear that it's black women that have a tendency to be that particular type of parent, but today, this spans beyond just the whole one particular race, and I'm going to stick with just a gender thing. Me, yes, I am a black woman, and I have been co-parenting for, and I won't even say for 15 years, because my oldest child's father is actually just now coming into the picture. However, the particular situation in which we're involved in was toxic from the beginning, which was why there was a separation in the first place. And I know it's kind of like, oh, well, that's super personal. Well, it kind of helps. Like, this can be my vent session, and it can help somebody else, hopefully, that may be experiencing the same thing. Toxic co-parenting, again, is the environment in which one parent doesn't want to give when it comes to the best of the child. And it's typically an instant, I'm not doing that because you said so. A lot of the times I see that that's what happens amongst relationships, especially in within the genders. And you typically have the dad that speaks out more frequently. And he's telling all his friends, oh, my baby mama ain't this, my baby mama ain't that. There's social media posts, there's text messages, there's whatever that's going on, to the fact and to the point where the mother now feels slighted, and then she reacts based on how the situation happened, rather than 2 grown people that made the baby in the first place sitting down and having a conversation. And I get that at times it can be very tense, and it's not something that's just as simple as sitting down to say, hey, let's talk. I understand that. Trust me, I do. However, when children are involved, it is extremely important that you take the time out, put your ego and your pride aside, because at the end of the day, this little person is dependent upon both mom and dad to make rational decisions and rational choices for that little person that's not able to defend themselves. Nobody cares about your child as much as you care about your child. So if you, the mom and dad, are constantly bickering back and forth and can never come to an agreement on how the child is supposed to be raised or what needs to be done with the child in order to ensure that they're a happy, healthy individual, it just spoils the kid altogether. And this, a lot of the times I hear, well, it's because the daddy didn't want the mama anymore and she's just mad. I beg to differ. That is not always the case. There are a lot of times where the mom doesn't want to be with the dad anymore based on X, Y, and Z and this, that, and the other. And then it automatically turns into that. And that's what you tell your homies. So your homies run along with that. And then that's the narrative for the next 18 years of the child's life. And that's not fair. Be honest with your crap. When you screw up and you mess it up, don't sit over there and constantly blame the other parent. Like, I know that with my particular situations, I allowed certain behaviors that I deemed unacceptable to continue for a long time before I finally spoke up and said something. That in itself is an irresponsibility to the child as well. That is not something that is okay to just allow something to continue to where the kid is kind of questioning like, okay, yo, mom not thinking quite clearly because this dumb crap keeps happening and she's not stopping it. Me being the product of that type of environment growing up, I didn't want that to happen for my kids, and unfortunately it has. So it's kind of like, you know, you try to avoid the negative thing, and you try to avoid it so much that you recreate that particular environment by not speaking up and opening your mouth. A lot of the times with me, and y'all know me, I got a mouth. I have a mouth. I have an attitude at times, and I can be really blunt when it comes to certain stuff. And it's got a plus side and a negative side to it. It's a good and a bad, a gift and a curse. All the little cliche topics that you want to say that it is to have that particular attitude and have that. And I don't even call it an attitude. It's more so that particular type of oomph. We'll just call it that. I do not tolerate certain types of behaviors and things just because I feel as an adult, right is right and wrong is wrong. And I get that people grow up in different types of environments, and sometimes they may not be skilled in a particular area, and so they need assistance with learning how to develop that mindset or thought process, or how to work through particular situations because they are not used to that from growing up. That's totally fine, and I get that. However, at a particular age, i.e. over the age of 35, and even 30, some 30-year-olds, like, you kind of know what's right and what's wrong and what's acceptable and what's unacceptable by the time you reach 35. And if you still need to be reminded these particular things, it's best that you stay to yourself. You may need to go get some therapy at this particular point in time. And y'all know how I feel about therapy, so this is not slighting anyone that feels that they need to go see a counselor, a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist for difficult times that they may go through. Sometimes you just need to vent and have a third party that's completely unbiased assist you in your thinking because you don't know how to, because you've never developed that skill. These lack of skills do affect your children. If you know that you're incapable of communicating with your co-parent in a positive manner in which you can't say anything nice at all, communicate via text messages. I had to go to court for my youngest for like the court order for parenting or whatever. What is it? The parenting plan. And we had to kind of mediate on how things would have to happen. And the thing that really annoyed me the most about going through this particular situation is the fact that I'm sitting here and they're telling me the same stuff that I had already discussed in the first place. Primary custodial parent makes bottom line final decisions on most things. Well, when you are co-parenting with somebody, you're supposed to be able to sit down and do these things mutually. Well, unfortunately, when outsiders become involved with raising your children, that's how the whole trajectory of where you and your partner had in mind on them going changes. Now, I think it's fine for kids to want to do particular activities and whatnot, but when you see that a kid just doesn't want to do it and it's trying to be forced upon them, like, my kid needs to play sports, or my kid needs to be a rapper, or my kid needs to go into the arts, my kid needs to sing, my kid's going to be a dancer. Like, those types of dreams, like, you have to let your kid live their life. If you were a doctor and your wife was a doctor and your grandparent was a doctor and his dad was a doctor and you've got lines of doctors, but your kid bust up out of here with, I want to be an engineer, guess what? That's that kid's life. I get that you're supposed to assist and guide your children in the right direction, but thus far, my kids kind of help me to guide them in the right direction by showing me their interests. That's not always something that's been agreed upon with one of my co-parents. It was, well, he needs to play a sport because this, that, and the other. Well, if you've ever played the drum set, you guys, playing a drum set takes a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of talent, and a whole lot of skill. That's not something you just get on a drum set one day and you just able to go bust out whatever thing you think you want to play. If you've ever paid attention to like PlayStation and Sega and whatever other companies let you play Rock Band, and you monitor how many calories you burn after playing Rock Band, whether it's the guitar or the drum set, y'all, it's a whole workout from playing the drums. That is a form of letting off some steam. And I get it's not cardio workout and it's not the same thing as going and running up and down the basketball court. But that's what outside is for. Send the kid outside. Outside is a fully functioning, free activity for your child to do. All kids, whether they're a boy or girl, do not have to play a sport in order for them to make it in life. Like, it's not mandatory in life that you must play a sport or die. You must be in the band or die. Like, you do it in middle school, you find out you hate it, you go to high school, you don't have to ever pick up a drumstick ever again. However, in my kid's instance, this is not what he chooses to do. So it is what it is. Another thing about co-parenting with another person is honesty. And this, to me, is probably the biggest issue amongst two co-parents, because if y'all were in a relationship and the relationship crumbled based on the fact that it was difficult for said other party to tell the truth, it is not going to change once a child gets here. Babies don't make situations better. They don't make people tell the truth. They don't make people change, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I know it sucks, and I know it's hard to hear that type of thing, and I know it's kind of like, oh man, you just bottom lined it and made it like a most negative thing ever. Well, it's not being negative. It's the fact. It's the reality. It's what you need to understand to look forward to so that you can go ahead and maneuver around whatever the problem was that's sitting in your face in the first place. If your significant other lied to you while y'all were together, it's not going to change when your kid gets here. If you tell them you didn't want them to do X, Y, and Z, or you're not comfortable with them doing X, Y, and Z, and you give them a valid reason and explanation as to why that doesn't sit right with you, like, I don't want my kid going to Billy's house. If you told them you didn't want your kid going to Billy's house when y'all were together, what makes you think they're not going to do it when you're apart? So you have to try to instill the things in your child when they're with you the most, that right is right and wrong is wrong. And I know it's extremely confusing to kids because they're caught in the middle of two adults in their tug of war. But you just have to do your best to your ability to explain it to them. I was talking to a guy friend of mine the other day, and I was just telling him, like, you know, I have been through hell with my kid's dad, and I have broken down on more than one occasion, bawling my eyes out, like just completely devastated over how our interaction has gone based on a truth being told or me just trying to really be able to co-parent in a healthy environment. And I told him that a lot of the times I don't allow my children to see me be upset. Part of that is because I hate crying. I hate crying. And I know that I'm a female and I'm a woman and I'm just an emotional creature, and that's what I am. But I despise it. Like, it works my nerves to cry, especially when it's over something that I can't fix. And I was telling my guy friend I typically do not let my children see that because I don't want them thinking that I just flipped out, and I try to keep my kids from having to pick a side. I feel like if my kids see me upset, even if it is valid, I try to keep it to where they don't feel like, oh, I have to pick mom's side because dad upset her today, because I think that's crap. I don't want my kids to pick. And I feel like a lot of the times that parents put each other in a position in which they're making their children pick which side. You're either team mom or team dad. And that's not fair to the kids when the kids at the end of the day need both parents to co-parent happily and peacefully, whether y'all are together or not. I mean, I see some couples out there that they co-parent, like Wayne Brady, he co-parents with his child's mother, and the new boyfriend is around, and he's aware of the new boyfriend, and their situation is not tainted to the fact where the two dads, well, the stepdad or soon to be stepdad and the dad, the biological father, can't get along. You see some co-parents where the mom is like, oh, you're gonna come pick up my kid? By all means, here is your son this weekend. Like my best friend, she has a co-parenting situation in which she gets along wonderfully with her son's father's new girlfriend. And I think it's absolutely amazing when situations can happen like that, because that is the healthiest way to raise a child, is where it's a co-parenting thing that is it's an extra parent. Unfortunately for me, I don't see that as my particular future due to the fact that, once again, adult issues became the front runner on how the interaction was going to happen. And I honestly have a difficult time co-parenting with somebody that I cannot communicate with. It's hard. How do you call somebody to speak to them and you ask them a question and you can't get a straightforward answer from them? I don't feel that I'm able to get the best advice and opinions for our child because truths weren't told. So I don't always feel the kid's best interest is at heart, because when you do stuff to intentionally hurt and harm the other person, whether it be intentionally not calling, letting your kid call on the birthday, or not calling to say Happy Mother's Day or Happy Father's Day, whatever the situation may be, when you do those slight petty things, all of that starts to add up, and it makes it to where the parent cannot get along with each other. Like I know, I see some people, they'll like shout out their mom, cousin, dog, next door neighbor, 3 cousins removed 17 times from the family, and tell them, oh, you are such a wonderful mama, I love how you do that. But their own kid's parent, they don't say these types of things. And I just, for the life of me, cannot understand it. And I never have been able to understand how you'll shout out somebody else for their parenting skills, but your own kid's mom, you don't say anything at all. And I've heard, well, I try not to keep my kid's mom on social media because I don't want people hitting on her. Well, then just keep everybody off social media. The whole purpose and point of social media is to share. And if you're on there sharing things, but you can't share other stuff, then just shut up altogether or get off. Like, it defeats the purpose. And I've heard stories and tales of, well, it's my page, so you can't tell me what to do on my page. All of that is crap, because at the end of the day, unless you built Facebook yourself and your name is Mark Zuckerberg, it is not yours. It is most definitely somebody else's platform in which those things can be screenshot and used against you. So if you go on social media and you're talking about your baby mama or your baby daddy, and you're talking ratchet about them for the whole world to see, whether it's in a Facebook group, on your Facebook page, you think your page is private, or whatever the situation may be, screenshots happen, y'all. Screenshots happen, and if you have like a particular custody case, or you have a situation in which you're not supposed to talk about your child's mother or child's father, look at Dwight Howard, when Twitter was first coming into existence, and he had told his baby mama, don't put anything about our kid on social media. I really want our kid to stay private. I want their lives to be able to be protected. I don't want them to have any kind of public issue in any form, because I want to keep our kid healthy and happy and safe. Well, the baby mama was like, F you, you told me what I can and can't do, so this is what I'm about to do. And she turned around and posted her kid on social media, and for every Twitter follower she had, she was sued for. Every Twitter follower. She was taken to court and was sued for every person that was on her account that could have possibly and potentially seen her kid. All of that because she didn't want to respect a whole conversation that was had, like, hey, Let's talk. Let's keep the kid private. Let's do this. It seems to be in every co-parenting situation except for the positive, happy, healthy ones that is the reason why two people don't get along. They have their whole, well, he said this or she said that, so I'm not going to do it. And my mama didn't like you, and so that's why I'm going to do it this way. And you don't listen to anything I say, so everything you say, I'm not going to follow. It's just sad at the end of the day, because these young men and young women, whether they're 4 or 14, are looking up to us to be their guides. And when they can't see us guiding them in a happy, healthy, positive way, then they don't know how they're supposed to treat their significant other or their baby mama or their baby daddy. Heaven forbid they have to have either of those. And it makes it really difficult for the kids to grow up to be healthy. And then they pass that crap down from their kids to their kids' kids to their kids' kids. And now you have a whole cycle that has to be broken based on the fact that two adults couldn't sit down and put their differences aside and, for the most part, just tell the freaking truth. Like, yeah, y'all might have started to fall apart towards the latter part of y'all's relationship, but obviously at some point in time y'all were able to get along. I think a lot of the times, if it was mandatory mediation when couples separated, when they have kids involved, a lot of people might take the time to sit down and kind of listen a little bit better. I was talking to somebody today about a current relationship that she's in, and she was just saying how she has a really hard time with understanding her significant other. And he told her, he was just like, you just don't care about me. Well, being in a couple, whether you're, or being a single, or just being a parent, there is the book, The 5 Love Languages, and it's been written from multi-looks, I guess. It's probably not even the right word. Whatever, y'all know what I mean. It's written from the couple standpoint, the single person standpoint, the teenager standpoint, and then like raising your child standpoint, to kind of figure out where your kid's love language is. You still need to do that for your ex-significant other. Figure out what their particular love language is, or how to understand them a little bit better so that y'all can communicate in a more effective way in raising your kids. If one person is literally telling you, I'm a words of affirmation person, but you're constantly breaking your baby mom or your baby dad down by telling them you ain't shit, that's not going to make them respond to you in a better manner in which y'all can effectively communicate and raise your children. If you know that your baby mom needs to be given a 5 spot, or the same thing for your baby dad, or just like, hey, let's go get your dad a birthday present today. Even if it's just from the Dollar Tree and y'all just pick up an Armor All wipe down kit. Like, just do something small. I'm not saying you have to be in a relationship with that particular individual, but just do the right thing. Like, your kid is going to want to get their mom or their dad a gift for Christmas or their birthday. So even if it does hurt, pick up the little crappy, funky $5 thing. I'm not saying spend a lot, but you have to also be giving and receiving. So if you know that your child's mother does these types of things for you, even though y'all aren't together, do the same thing in return. Like, you paying child support for your kid has nothing to do with what she needs, what she does, what she has to take care of. And I know there are some baby moms out there, and some baby dads for that matter, that are money-grubbing, evil little something or others. And times are changing where dads are getting custody of their kids. But that doesn't mean that that's what your child's mother is. And especially if you've known her for a long time, if you know she's not taking your child support to go get her hair and nails done, and you know she's done kicked ass for the last couple of weeks, and you ain't shown up and picked your kid up for 3 weeks straight because of COVID or whatever is going on out there, send her a little something extra, or send him a little something extra. It's the right thing to do, especially, again, if you don't have your kid 24/7. Now, there are some parents out there that are beyond exceptions to the rules. They are with their kids every freaking week, whether they co-parent or not. Those are not the parents I'm talking about. If you pick your kid up like you're supposed to on a regular basis, I'm not talking to you. If your baby mom absolutely will not open the front door for you to get your kid, I am not talking to you. I am talking to the parents that they are able to pick up their kids. They are able to go see their children, and then they just choose not to. I'm talking about the parents that know that their kid's mom or their kid's dad does everything for their kid and doesn't ask you for a penny extra. I'm talking to you. That's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the parent that knows that their kid's mom is working 2 jobs to take care of the kids, and you send the bare minimum of child support, but then you turn around and you get a little bit of extra something. And I always hear the whole, well, when she files taxes or when he files taxes, you know they get $3,500 per kid. Yeah, but if you know your kid's parent and you know how they are, typically that money goes right back into the kids. That's the smart thing to do. Or you pay your bills up in advance or whatever for the next couple of weeks. That's the smart thing to do. You know your kid's mom or dad did that and they didn't just pocket the money. Unless you see them next week and they got like 17 pairs of brand new Jordans, then you know what they did with that extra money. But I'm not talking to the parents that do a good job or they co-parent with their baby mom and they're able to split the tax refund down the middle and there's no issue, there's no argument, there's no problem. I'm not talking to you parents. I'm literally talking to the toxic co-parents out there where the situation is harmful to the kids based on your unhealthy interaction. It's bad for kids to see their parents 1 minute happy-go-lucky and then the next minute it's destroyed and it's ripped and shredded apart. It's not good for the kids' mental capacity for them to see that type of thing. It's also not good for you to live in a home with a toxic co-parent where it's constant arguing, constant fighting, constant mental, physical, and emotional abuse. None of those things last, or none of those things are good, and they do last forever. A bruise may go away on a kid's arm based on them getting hit, but the emotional and mental scars that are put there from 2 parents arguing, they never go away. I am 37 years old and my parents bickered and argued for years. So much to the point where I said, F this, and I packed up and I left. I literally moved clear across the country to get away from my parents because they argued so much. And I look at the turnout of me and my 6 siblings, well, 5 siblings, 6 kids in total. And I look at the turnout of us, and then I look at other people who didn't have 2 parents at home and how they turned out. And they're always talking about, oh, well, 2-parent households raise such great kids and kids. I'm not saying my siblings and I are crap, but we're not as great as we could have been based on the fact that we had 2 extremely argumentative parents on a constant and regular basis. It was not a healthy environment. So if you can make your environment healthy for your kids by not living with the co-parent that is toxic, whether it's your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever your situation may be, toxic co-parenting is toxic co-parenting. Whether you're co-parenting 5 miles away from each other or 500 miles away, toxic co-parenting is toxic co-parenting. You have to do all the things that you can to ensure that your children are raised happy. There are things that you can do to avoid toxic co-parenting. God dang, just tell the truth, for crying out loud. Like, if you know your baby mom's gonna trip out because you lied to her, or your baby dad is, just tell the truth. Don't take your kids over to your girlfriend's house or your boyfriend's house without talking to them first and to say, well, we not together no more, so I don't owe you that. You do. Just out of respect for that man or for that woman. You do owe them that respect, to give them a heads up. If you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend and you feel that it is okay to introduce that significant other to your child, give your kids mama, daddy, cousin, whatever the person may be, give them a heads up warning. It's only fair, especially if I know some situations where like the mom and dad are still kind of, they're broken up, but they're not really together, but they still doing whatever. Just give the parent a heads up. Like my youngest son's dad and I, we have not been together in almost 3 years. So if and when I ever get into a situation that I do feel it's time to introduce my kids to him, I'm going to give him a heads up warning, especially because he lives right here in Atlanta. I'm going to give him a heads up warning the same way I did for my oldest child's father. I let him know about little kid's dad before we went any further. Like, hey, this is my situation. This is what's going on. He's been around since kid was 2 and we're going to move in together. Unfortunately, it sucked and didn't work out. So now it's like, okay, I don't even know if I can, will, or will want to do this ever again, because my kids, the only dad they've known is him. That's it. It's been him. That's it. But we don't have the best communication skills. That's all going to be laid on me, I guarantee you. And if you ever knew our situation to the fullest details, I promise you it's not all me. However, that's the way the picture's painted. It's always going to be painted as me as the bad guy, which is why our situation has not gotten any better. And it is a toxic situation. If you and your child's mother or you and your child's father cannot sit in the same room together to have a cup of coffee together or to go out to eat together, the situation is toxic. If it's something that you can do by finding a mutual family member or close family friend or even a therapist or a counselor or a teacher or somebody at your church or your dojo or whatever the situation may be, if you can find an individual that can sit down and help you mediate through your toxic situation to benefit your children, y'all, do it. I promise you. When I saw my situation going to the left with my child's father, I went to therapy. More so because I was called crazy, and I ended up going because that's the narrative that was painted. But it wasn't me being crazy. It was just me getting tired of dealing with the crap. And I said it. Hey, don't like this. Not doing it anymore. That instantly made something wrong with me because I wouldn't tolerate and deal with certain behaviors anymore. It's just what it is. If you want to accept your kids to do something repetitively, then why do you have to accept your significant other doing the same? And a lot of times, your significant other does act like a kid. But honestly, the toxic co-parenting, if you feel that you may need to go to therapy as an individual and then try to do it as a couple or a family, those types of things do exist. There are family therapists. However, again, each individual has to be willing to go to therapy to deal with what's going on with them internally before you can sit down in family therapy, because it'll defeat the whole purpose in you trying to go. At the end of the day, all we're trying to do are raise the best children that we can into young adults. Because if they have this toxic environment, they grow up to be hateful, they grow up to be argumentative, they grow up to be unbalanced kids, and it's not fair to them when we as the adults have all the abilities and capabilities of ensuring that they don't have to go through what we went through as kids. It's not fair to my children to have to deal with what I did growing up. So I will not allow arguing to happen in front of my kids. I get that children do need to see interactions are not always hunky-dory. But when the arguments happen 6 out of the 7 days out of the week, and your kids are hearing the FUs and seeing stuff being chunked across the room, that's never good for them. I don't care what the environment is. There's a book that talks about raising a happy kid, and I can't think of the name of it right now. I got it a couple years ago, but there is a quiz that you take about your children to see if your kids fail on the trauma scale. And it's a sucky scale, but it's true. I'm trying to see if I can find this book because my kid's granddad had told me to get it, and I had it somewhere. I'm hoping I can find it. I really wish I could, because it was a really good book that I got. And in the book, like I was saying, there is a quiz that you take to see if you grew up in a toxic environment. And what they were saying is most children, unfortunately, from black homes have a tendency to fall into this particular range of not doing so well because they grew up in a toxic environment. They were unable to have the positive home and positive upbringing And everything that they saw was just absolutely negative. They didn't have anything that was, it wasn't supportive. The kids would go and they saw their parents arguing. They saw their dad yell at their mom. They saw their dad hit their mom. Like, it was just a list of things that the kids had seen growing up. And when you take the quiz, it tells you what level of fucked you are, for lack of better words. So most of these kids that are coming from inner city homes, or even like trailer parks, or even homes where they had two parents, where the parents both are making a decent amount of money, but the kids are constantly seeing their parents argue all the time, they failed. Like, they failed this quiz. And when you look at how the kids failed, and you look at the kids that they had monitored throughout this program, because it took place in Chicago. When you look at the kids that they monitored throughout this program, you had the ones that were successful scored on the very low end of this quiz, or they didn't have anything at all. They rarely to never saw their dad and mom argue. They never saw their dad put their hands on their mom. They never heard their father belittle their mother, or their mother belittle their father. They never saw all of these things that a lot of the times couples have a tendency to allow their children to see, not realizing how damaging that is for a kid. It's never good for your kid to see their mom just break down because they've been told so many times by their dad that they're just a stupid person, that they're ignorant. Like, that's never good for a kid to see that, because now he's going to think, or she's going to think, hey, this is how you talk to your significant other. It's never good for your kid to hear or see those types of things. And for whatever reason, we as people don't know how to not be damaging. They always say a tongue is like a sword and it cuts deep. Well, it does. When you say things that you know are going to kind of damage the other person, there's no healing from that. No matter how many times you've said sorry, nobody is going to heal from that. So if you're constantly calling your kid's mom stupid, or calling her dumb, or talking about her on social media, regardless if you've deleted it, she's already seen it, or he's already seen it, and it's a done deal. Like, it's completely damaged. There's been stuff that's been said about me by my kids' dads, and I will never recover from it. It is just what it is. It doesn't matter if I was told sorry today, tomorrow, next week, or a year from now. It's still not going to change the fact that I've already seen and heard what I've already seen and heard. And that's just it. Like, that particular relationship is completely damaged. And in order for it to be fixed, I quote unquote have to be the bigger person. And that's, once again, not fair. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to my kids that my kids can see the damage being done, but there's no stand up, hey, you know what, I screwed up, I shouldn't have talked to your mother that way, I shouldn't have done it this way. It's no fixing that. And we continue to perpetuate the cycle by constantly doing this to our kids. And rather than, again, just saying, hey, you know what, let me take a step back, let me re-examine this, and let me try something a little different or a little better, because that's not the move. It's always in the midst of the funk hitting the fan that people have a tendency to kind of say and do whatever and just get reckless with what they say. And it's damaged. Oh, goodness. Kids, like, toxic co-parenting. I don't have a solution for it outside of, yet again, try to sit down. Try to research in your area. There are plenty of family therapists. I get everybody doesn't have insurance and it's expensive. But if you have a trusted mutual friend, not your best friend that you know is going to automatically side with you, but literally a genuine mutual friend that is capable of sitting down and analyzing the situation and saying, hey, yo, you know what? This isn't cool. Not the cousin that's going to talk shit about the baby mom behind her back as soon as she walks off. Not your mama, not your daddy, especially if you know that they don't like the significant other for whatever reason they find. Those are not the individuals that you go and sit down and talk to help you through the situation. You find a mutual parent, mutual friend, mutual somebody that can help you out and help you through it. Typically, I suggest an elder, somebody that's been there, done that, screwed the situation up, tried to fixed it, or failed miserably, that they can tell you, hey, that's not what you want to do. So you can kind of go ahead and graduate and move forward and move past that. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Yeah, y'all, I talked for a full 40 minutes running my daggum mouth, but this was something I felt was heavy on my heart and I needed to discuss with you guys about co-parenting with toxic co-parents. Do your best, y'all. Don't let your kids see you fussing and fighting. Don't make your baby mom cry. Don't say stuff to your baby dad that just got him all in a tizzy just because you being a jerk. Try to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to your kids, and don't always do things just because it's what you want. Make sure what you want is the best for your kids. Do they need that $300 pair of shoes this week, or is that just something you doing just to piss off your kid's dad to tell him, oh, I need some more money because his shoes cost $300? Seriously, y'all, like, it's certain things that you got to think about and reevaluate, especially in this time in which a lot of people are unemployed and stuff is just flying to the left. Like, you honestly don't know if you're going to be able to see your kid's dad or your kid's mom ever again in life, and you don't want to leave stuff on a bad note. Life is way too short. You don't know if you're going to go outside and get coronavirus tomorrow and can't go nowhere after that. Like, seriously, have a full conversation. Be honest. Be kind. Treat others the way you want to be treated, for crying out loud. Like, it's the oldest saying on the planet. Treat others the way you want to be treated. If you don't want your child's parent to treat you like crap, don't treat them like crap. Follow your girl on Twitter and Instagram. I am Tori Grace, TORIGR, the number 8CE. Check me out on X Squad Affiliates and Fleet DJs Radio. Download both of the apps. We're running on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. It's your girl, Tori Grace, and I'm out. Thanks for tuning in.